Hey there. This is the H9 from Eventide. It's taking this simple audio and turning it into this. It can run all the algorithms and all the presets from all of Eventide's other stomp boxes. Plus quite a few more that are exclusive to the H9. In this clip, I'll review the H9 and explore my favorite presets that go from this to something very different. And in case you're concerned, yes, it does reverbs as well. But before we hear some more presets, let's talk about a few details about how to use it. Now, obviously you can connect any sound source to this, whether it's your voice, a guitar, or anything else. I'll be using simple synth voices from the Matrix Brute over here. We won't be using any of its superpowers, and I'll also use it to send MIDI messages to change H9 parameters. Okay, before I talk about the controls and the companion software, you should know there are 3 versions of the H9. From a hardware perspective, they're the same. It's just a matter of which algorithms come bundled versus what you need to purchase later on. This is the Max version, which includes all the algorithms. In terms of controls, it's pretty straightforward. There are 2 foot switches. This one typically turns the effect on and off, and this one is used for tap tempo, though they have some secondary uses and sometimes different uses depending on the preset. This big knob does 5 different things depending on which of these buttons is pressed. Its light ring will always show you the status of a particular parameter, and you can press it to fine-tune a parameter. There are hundreds of presets you can choose from for any one of over 40 different algorithms, and you can keep 99 presets on the box at any one given time. Every preset typically has 10 parameters that you can change. You have control of 3 at any one given time on the box. Notice how every time I change a parameter, it's immediately synced via Bluetooth to the app on the iPad. You can change which parameter any one of these 3 buttons controls by going into expert mode, in which case you click this button and then it will change which parameter the big knob controls. That's probably the only advantage that the big Factor stomp boxes have, where you have a knob per function. You can obviously always use the companion app. There's an Android version, iOS, and ones for Mac and a PC as well. If you do use iOS, you can use the touchscreen to control the parameters. And you can control more than one parameter at a time if you want. You could set A-B ranges for all the knob positions. For example, here, this ring here and this ring here shows that. And then use the ribbon here to move between them, or the HotKnob. You can also control this movement with an expression pedal through the input here, or any other MIDI controller. If you're using the app, it has a cool XY pad feature, which lets you select 2 different parameters and then move between them using the touchscreen. Now, if you don't have an iPad or don't want to use an iPad or computer to control the H9, you can control it via MIDI and a MIDI controller. In this case, I'll be using the Matrix Brute as my MIDI controller. I've got a bunch of knobs on oscillator 2, which I'm not using because we're only using oscillator 1 and sometimes 3. And I've already pre-mapped them using a simple MIDI learn function on the H9, and they now control all 10 knobs on the H9. You can see every time I turn a knob on the matrix brute, the appropriate change is reflected on the iPad user interface and on the screen of the H9. And I'm just using this as an example because it's convenient and it's here. You can use literally any MIDI controller or synth or anything else that sends MIDI CC messages. Next topic I want to talk about is the ribbon controller and HotKnob functionality. You can use an expression pedal. Here I've mapped this knob to do the same thing. Now notice when I turn it, 2 knobs are turning at once, but they're only reaching halfway. I can change that by pressing this button and extending the range, and now the maximum value goes up all the way, and when I turn the HotKnob or this expression controller, both knobs are turning all the way right to left. I can add more knobs to this motion. Let's set a low point here, and now the expression pedal or this controller will move all 4 knobs from their maximum value all the way down to their minimum value and back up. So let's talk about this business of algorithms and presets. There are over 40 algorithms. An algorithm is basically a fancy word for a group of subcomponents organized in a certain way, sort of like a mini pedal board within a pedal. You can get a glimpse of this in some of the presets. The knobs on a preset basically control the subparameters that you see here. And each algorithm has a completely different organization of completely different components. These are things like drive, multiple delays, reverbs, distortion, filters, compressors, arpeggiators, pitch shifters, all in various different kinds of combinations. So that's what an algorithm is, and then once an algorithm is set, presets are the different parameter positions for that particular algorithm. So these are presets, and if I go back to algorithms, pick something else, let's say this one, it might have completely different components and parameters that you can configure. So if I go back to the algorithm view, these are the algorithms from the TimeFactor pedals, these are from the ModFactor pedals, PitchFactor, Space, and these are unique to the H9. Now, like I said, there are over 40 algorithms and hundreds of presets. I can't show you all of them, so I limited myself to as little as possible. Let's get started. I'll start from the left with the TimeFactor presets. The delays are stereo and can have different timings per ear if you have headphones or speakers. Here, a filter is applied to the delay buffer. The analog and tape emulations are really good. Like real analog delays, these hold up really nicely to real-time decay changes. Next up on the TimeFactor effects is a looper. Just hit the switch and you have a loop. Depending on the quality, loops can be anywhere between 12 to 48 seconds. You can transpose the loop in quantities as set by this knob. Transposing a loop affects its playback time and quality. You can move the start point forward and the end point back. There are a few other ways to impact the sound. And if you need a looper, you have one bundled build in here. Okay, let's check out a couple of the ModFactor effects. Now I'm going to look at the more eccentric ones, just to show you the special things this can do with your sound. Should you like a pedal that talks back to you? Another interesting ModFactor preset is Tremodulator. Here's what we're feeding it, and this is what it does. Now I'm definitely going for the sounds that are more out there. I mean, the pedal has standard effects like chorus, tremolo, and so on. I just wanted to show you the more special ones. The H9 is also pretty good at the simple effects. I'll move on to PitchFactor. This is the source sound. And this gives you a few more oscillators. But PitchFactor really excels at creating additional sounds at different frequencies compared to what you feed it. So sounds like this really start out as just this. Now, just to clarify, everything you see on the iPad is just an aid to explain what's going on. We're really still just moving one of 10 parameters every time. Did I mention already we're only feeding the H9 one note at a time? If we go to the pedal view, this is really what's going on. It's really only the parameters that are driving all the changes in what you're hearing. Though there are nice on-screen helpers for the patterns. Check out what happens when you change one of the sequence knobs. So the app can be very useful for presets like that. For others, the regular parameters are just fine. Another special pitch factor algorithm is crystals. So that was a small taste of the pitch factor algorithms. Now let's rocket out into space. Let's start with a small hall. Now a hall can start small, but it can gradually and progressively get bigger. Please forgive the following cliché. Okay, now that that's out of my system, let's talk a bit about freeze and infinity and the difference between them. So this is freeze. Freeze mode will take the current sound and just hold it until you release it. You can then play some more, and if you want to freeze a new sound, just move into freeze mode again. Now, once you're in freeze mode, the following notes won't have any effect applied to them. And that's how freeze is different from infinity, which is one step before freeze, by the way, on the dial. Infinity will also go on forever, but lets you keep on adding notes to it. Creating one large megachord. Beautiful. Now this big reverb's twin brother or sister is Shimmer. And what Shimmer does is basically just like reverb, only duplicates the original sound at different frequencies. Notice how they just go up and up. Now you can change those frequency steps. And they can also go down, so you can start with a higher note and have the frequencies go down continuously. Another really impressive reverb algorithm is dual verb. So the idea here is simple and powerful. You get two reverbs, which you can pull to infinity or freeze, and then you can individually determine whether what you play goes into reverb 1 or reverb 2, freeze either one of those, or both, and then transition between the two sounds. Super cool and super powerful in my book. Once both are frozen, you can play on top of them unaffected, and always unfreeze either layer and continue adding to it. So there are obviously plenty more reverbs and not enough time to cover them all. Let's move on to the H9 algorithms. Now these don't exist in any of the Eventide pedals other than the H9. And this list has grown quite a lot since the H9 was originally released. These algorithms are quite different. We won't be able to go through all of them. I'll just pick a couple that are really nice in my opinion. Resonator is really lovely. And the last preset and algorithm I want to show you are from an algorithm called PitchFuzz, and the preset is arpeggiate. That's what I started this video with. This is some of what's going on behind the scenes in terms of the routing. And I'll leave you with this. If you like this video, please hit like. If you want to see more, click subscribe and ring the YouTube bell. Have any questions? Ask me in the comments section below. Thanks very much for watching. Bye.